What's up, gangsters? I have decided to make a kind of a spur-of-the-moment video. So, here's what happened. Yesterday, I got into one of those really stupid threads on Facebook. You know the type. I mean, there's basically three kinds of threads in model making groups that are like lightning rods for the stupids. Anything about primer, anything about Tamiya decals, and anything about Airfix. Now, there was one particular guy who didn't care for my analysis of Airfix problems, of which they have some. And look, I really want to see Airfix succeed. I think they're a cool company and they do cool things. But if they don't, kind of unfuck themselves, they are going to not be around for a long time. And that would be sad. So I'm never, shy about my estimation of how they got themselves there or what they need to do, based on my own experience and knowledge as an engineer with injection molding experience and as a model maker. But this one particular guy did not care for my opinion at all. And there's always one. Some guy who just cannot handle any negative comments about the beloved Airfix. And this dipshit decided to make me look stupid by going into my photo album on my Facebook page where all of my pictures of my work are located and find something that makes me look incompetent. I mean, not that that's that hard, but he found what he was looking for. And that is right here. It is this lovely Italeri 148th Hurricane that I built last summer in about 47 hours and 55 minutes. I can tell you that precisely because I did it for a 48-hour build challenge that Paul Bretland and the dudes over at ISM put on in commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. And I wanted to do it as a personal challenge. So I got this Italeri Hurricane and proceeded to stay up for about 38 of the 48 hours that I had in that weekend constructing the thing just to see what I could pull off. One of the things that I did not pull off was quality application of the decals. And this one particular picture shows the silvering quite badly. It's embarrassing. But I didn't really notice it at the time, and when I did see it, it was too late, and I just threw the thing on the shelf and forgot about it. Partly because I just kind of hate this model in the first place. It's not a good kit. Okay. And building anything in 48 hours goes against everything I stand for, and the flaws in this thing show exactly why. But I got to thinking about it and I decided, you know what? This dude was right. This is incompetence incarnate. And every time I look at this thing, I hate these silver decals. And so I started wondering if a year later, more than a year later, I could fix it. So I've got it sitting right here on the bench, and we're going to take a close look right now, and we're going to see if it can be fixed. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look and see what I'm up against here. As you can see, this thing has been sitting on the shelf. It is pretty filthy, even though I've dusted it off, but you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Right there in the middle of the R and in the numbers there, and the call numbers there, there's very definitely some pretty horrendous silvering. There's a little bit over there in the D and next to the Z. I mean, it's pretty horrific. This, in fact, is the one experience that I've had so far with cartograph decals that I can think of. And the truth is, I was underwhelmed. Everybody says how awesome they are, but I was not pleased. Now, you could say that maybe my decal problems with this thing, you can see some more of the silvering right there, were because with this one I did what I usually do, which is put the decals straight on the paint before I clear coat over them. But if that were the case, then there would be a lot more silvering if that was the problem. And I think you can agree, if you take a close look here, that my paint is pretty smooth. This may not be the best paint that I ever did, but it's not rough or grainy. One of the things that caused me to hate this project is because if you look over here on the bottom, I had some pretty serious cracking with the decals. You can see that one's got some issues, but this one over here is the one that really looks bad. And I did my usual thing of using Solvaset, and I think it's just too strong for these really thin decals that Cartograph makes. And I could have probably just gotten away with Microsol. Anyway, the decals were not a happy experience. You can see, there's even a little bit of silvering under some of these stencils under the bottom of the tail. Doesn't show up quite as much as it does on the fuselage ones. But anyway, there you go. That's the challenge. And I want to see if I can fix it using a method that I have used on occasion and that I have recommended to people on a couple of occasions. And that is basically that I am going to attempt to remove the offending sections of the decal while not touching any of the parts of the decal that are nearby. And we're going to find out if that's possible, and I'm going to try and capture it on camera, but we'll probably end up doing I'll probably end up doing like high speed camera because this will probably take a while, and I don't want to kill you guys with another super stupid long video. So anyway, here goes. What I'm going to try to do is try and just get this in a position where I can work on that little section of the decal. And I've got a brand new number 2 X-Acto blade here with a perfect point. And hopefully that will give me the ability to just score around the offending area and then be able to lift it off. So we'll see. Okay, so success for the first part. You can see right there I tackled the issues in the middle of the R, and you can see basically all I did was score around the edge and then just slip my knife blade underneath, and the part that was silvered came right off, which obviously it should, because the reason it's silvered is because it's not adhered to the surface of the paint. Now, you can see that I chipped the paint a little bit there, which we may or may not try to fix. Obviously I could, but it doesn't really look unnatural. Not as unnatural as the silvering did. But what I do have is now there's a difference in the color of the paint. And the reason that is, which I may not have mentioned, is that all of these decals are under a layer of clear matte acrylic varnish. And That was the one thing that was making me unsure of whether or not I could pull this off. So now let's tackle the area in that call letter there and see how that goes. This is going to be more tedious because the areas are smaller and they're kind of scattered out. Okay, so that's a bunch of picking away at that, and let's see where we are. So you can see that I went after all the major areas there. There's still a little bit there next to the Z, but I think that maybe I'll just leave that because, number one, I hate this model and I couldn't care less about it. And number two, that little area by the Z, you know, it looks a little bit like silvering, of course, when you get right next to it. But the thing is to just not have something that's an obvious break in the pattern, which, you know, that people are going to look at who have done decals and recognize that it's silvering. And we all know that that happens, you know, in between letters and things like that. I mean, really, the old school way of handling that is to trim the clear film out from between the letters before you put the decals on. But I didn't take the time to do that on this little thing for the obvious reason. But anyway, you can see what I'm getting at. Now, what you've probably also seen is that, in addition to the giant thumbprint that I have right there, that I've left, you know, some sort of little rough edges where I've trimmed some of this material away. Now, how am I going to handle that? Because obviously, if we're really going to fix this, what I want to do is get the area to where it matches what the rest of the thing looks like. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of sanding sponge that I have trimmed up into a small little chunk here. This is a 320 grit sanding sponge. And I'm going to sand these decals a little bit. Now, don't let that freak you out. Don't ever be afraid to put sandpaper on a decal, whether that's for weathering it or smoothing down a wrinkle or you know, a raised edge or something like that. Because look, decals are not anything more complicated than layers of paint that you apply to your model using water to get them off of the decal paper. They are layers of lacquer, to be more specific, and they can be sanded and treated with the same amount of disrespect that any other layer of lacquer is treated with. So don't be afraid of your decals. Just do what you need to do. The other thing that you could do in a situation like this, where you've got some silvering that shows up like that, is you might just choose to do some oil paint rendering on top of that spot, where you introduce some tones of your base color that help you create tonal variety and disguise the fact that your silly decal is not happily nestled up to the surface that you've put it on. I mean, look, anybody who's watched my stuff knows that I am a big fan of going with the flow sometimes when it comes to weathering, and allowing all of it, these little random occurrences of abuse that happen in the course of a project to get blended in and become a part of the character of the thing. Because look, shit happens. Vehicles get scratched and scuffed and abraded and faded and so forth. And as long as it looks natural, you're okay. Now, you can see that I got into trouble and kind of made the situation worse here on the serial number, because some of that decal some of the letter came up. It's not the end of the world, because again, if I were serious about it, I could go in there with some paint and I could repair that. That looks better than the silvering. That looks more like some kind of weathering than the silvering does. So I'm not too broken up about that, especially given that this is really just an experiment. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and kind of get this to the point where it looks like it's ready for it. And then I'm going to shoot some clear matte varnish on it. And we'll see how well these areas that I've repaired blend in with the surroundings. So we'll come back to it here in a few minutes. All right, so I've got a little bit of Model Master Acryl clear flat varnish in my airbrush, which is what this thing was originally finished with. And I'm gonna just blow some of that on here and see what we can do to kind of knock down the difference there where we've made the repair. It isn't going to look great, but as proof of concept, I think it'll be successful. And, the reality of something like this is that how good it looks after you fix it is really just a matter of how much time and energy you care to spend on the repair. I care to spend basically none, because I don't care about this model. But I want to see how this works and see what we think about the results. And we'll know here in a few minutes when this dries. Okay, so let's have a look and see how we did here. I think one thing's for sure is that there were a couple of places where there were parts of the decal I was trying to keep that were just not going to stay put after that operation. And if I had, really cared about it, I could have figured out a way to reattach that portion of the decal. I could have used some future or some clear varnish or something, but again, don't care, so we're not going to worry about that. But let's take a look at the other side and see where I worked a little more diligently at it and see what we think. You're seeing this first time, same as I am, since the varnish dried. And I think you'd have to agree that it definitely is an improvement over the way it was with the silvering, because silvering is just so obvious, especially when it fills up the entire center portion of a letter like it did here. I left the places where I scratched through the paint because it doesn't matter to me but I could have repaired those if I'd wanted to. That would have been pretty easy to do. And I even took care of the nasty fingerprint there while I was at it. So you can see that there really is no such thing as a completely irreparable disaster with something like this. That just about anything is possible to repair if you're just willing to do the work. Okay, so there we go. That was fun. Well, at least it was fun until I went to clean that acrylic varnish out of my airbrush. I haven't used that bottle of matte acrylic in a long time, like probably since maybe 6 months ago. And it was like pouring glue into my airbrush. And I rarely use that stuff anymore anyway. I'm almost 100% Tester's Dull Coat, which is a lacquer. But anyway, look, I am not the guy who is going to take a model off the shelf and refinish it or do any kind of major repairs under normal circumstances, because once I get them off my workbench, I don't ever want them to come back. I'm done. So that's not why I did this. This was really just purely a challenge to see if I could do it and to prove out a theory that I had about fixing silvering on a decal. And look, it wouldn't necessarily have to be something you found a year later that already had varnish on it. You might find this level of silvering right after you put decals on and need to fix it immediately before you did a clear coat. And this is a perfectly viable method of doing that. But I would also add that I hope the other message here is that if you find yourself in some situation in one of these model making forums or groups, and someone says something mean in an attempt to hurt your feelings, or they say your model looks like shit, don't let them have that power over you. First of all, recognize that this is the kind of person who was probably breastfed until they were a teenager. And second of all, recognize that you can use this to set up a challenge for yourself to improve your game and turn it back on them. Because if they act like a douche captain and you use that situation to grow, then you win automatically. Especially if it's some guy like this Peter Jones character that was on me, who actually has created this fake Facebook account purely for the purpose of trolling model making groups on Facebook. I mean, look, that is a level of pathetic that is quite completely impossible to comprehend for me, and should be for you too. So don't ever let these idiots get the best of you or even make your needle wiggle. Just turn it in your favor and make your game stronger. Let the haters hate. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something. And as always, I appreciate you taking time to watch. Much love.